there's questions I have that can't be answered by just this physical world we live in. And it can be really weird because you're making changes and maybe living in ways that were not acceptable, or if you were brought up in a certain, religious beliefs or things like that, it can be pretty freaky. So when people do that, it is not uncommon if they're afraid of it or not really tuned in, it's not uncommon for you to have physical and emotional symptoms.
Welcome to The Reluctant Medium, where we cover the gamut of out there conversations. With an open mind and a curious heart, we want to talk about it all, from psychic phenomena and energy medicine to beings from other star systems and out-of-body experiences. You'll find a great balance between grounded science-backed topics and others that science hasn't quite caught up to yet. I'm your host, Dr. Maria Rothenburger, a psychotherapist by trade and a reluctant spirit baby communicator. And hey, even though I'm a medium, I'm not buying everything folks are selling. I just have a voracious appetite to know more about what I call the world of the weird. Join us on your favorite podcast platform or watch on YouTube at The Reluctant Medium. I'll see you there. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Reluctant Medium podcast. I am Dr. Maria Rothenburger, your host for the podcast, and I have a repeat visitor today. Yay! We had a great conversation last time. I think it's been a year, but it may be 2 years. I don't remember what I saw when I checked it out. And it feels like just that, like I just talked to her. She does medical intuition and artwork along with her readings, which is absolutely accurate. Astoundingly accurate. And welcome back, Katie Beecher.
Thank you so much.
So glad to have you back. And you wrote this beautiful book, Heal from Within, hanging out behind you. I can see it. So folks can go and check that out. And today you can go back to that first episode. I'll link it to the show notes here so you can hear about Katie's history and how she came to do what she does and all that stuff. But today I would love to dive right in if that's okay with you, Katie.
Sounds great.
Cool. So I'm curious today, this is under the medical intuition umbrella. Oh, wait, side note, I see you do spirit baby readings now.
I do. It's so fun.
It's like
the things you don't even know you can do, and then you try to do them and you're like, oh, okay, that's really
cool.
So yeah.
Okay then. Yes. I'm like, that's so cool. And animal communication too, it looks like, which is so dang cool. So welcome to the spirit baby side. I love it. Okay. So I'm curious about a couple of things today. And the first one is I saw something on your blog about the importance of connecting to the body. And it's kind of weird that we would even say that because most folks are like, what do you mean? I'm in a body, like I'm walking around in a body. But it is so amazing to know that a lot of folks are just completely dissociated, disconnected from the body. Do you find that too in your work? People just don't even know what's happening?
No, 100%. And it's a really common trauma response. For example, like if you're present during a situation that's horrible or you're being abused or there's too much to deal with, you don't want to be in that body. It feels really uncomfortable, or if you're in pain or if you don't like your body for whatever reason, or if it feels foreign to you, let's say you've gained a lot of weight or got into an accident, it doesn't feel like you anymore. You're kind of going to want to be over there. And then those of us that have these gifts, and there's tons of people who may not even know they have them, who can kind of run between here and the other side an awful lot, and not even realize it's happening.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And that makes complete sense. The just whatever is happening, the not wanting to be in the body because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's also a huge distraction, because if there are things in your life right now that are too hard to deal with, or you don't like yourself, or things about yourself that you don't want to admit, perhaps things like that, being out of your body means that you're out of the present moment. So it's even an addiction in a way,
Oh, for sure. It's certainly a relief from pain, which is what addiction is.
Right.
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I will. I've spoken publicly about this myself. I'm in recovery, or been in recovery for years now from an eating disorder. And it's been like, a long time since I've been symptomatic, but there was really dissociation. I did not want to be present in this body at all. It's so uncomfortable.
You know,
And so yes, yeah, yeah. So I get it. And it does feel like a little bit addictive. It's like, oh, I can escape. Yay. Other people use alcohol and drugs and sex and all the things, but mine was like, I'm going to go, la, 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 just fly away. I'll be in my head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely same. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
People don't always associate eating disorders with addiction, but that is exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. So why then, if it's relieving, why then is it important to be in the body? Why would somebody want to do that?
Yes, tons of reasons. So, one is kind of like I mentioned, if we're not in our body, we are not present. We're not in the current time. We're sometimes in the past. We're thinking about the future or in a state of anxiety or depression or something like that. So, it's very difficult to kind of recognize what you need to do, respond to other people if you're not being treated well, or even if you are being treated well. So it's kind of you can't be present, and if you're not present, you can't deal with your issues that are happening right now. Also, we get so many signals from our body about things to pay attention to, and also things that need healing. Um, and it's one of our intuition's, main way of talking to us, because it's really easy to kind of block out those thoughts and feelings. And so when that happens, our bodies are like, yeah, no, 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 we need to talk to you, and we're going to make you freaking miserable. Less miserable, hopefully, but then if we don't listen, more miserable. And it does it through those symptoms. So if we are listening to our stomach ache or our pain, then we, I'm not going to say have to, but we kind of do have to, be like, okay, I need to attend to this. What do I need to do? Even if it's rest, if it's get therapy, if it's whatever the thing is, but those signals, those symbolic signals, because they're not in words, are so important.
Oh God, I love that you said this. Okay. So I'm just going to say personal experience again, definitely when dealing with eating disorder and other stuff, other like marriage, social stuff, all that stuff, not being in the body, my body began freaking screaming at me like, you need to pay attention to this. But now that I'm totally in the body, I feel the little twinge and I'm like, oh, I need iron.
Yeah.
Oh, I need vitamin D. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so easy.
Or,
Mhm.
I do poll kind of religiously, and it's like a little bit in a psycho way, it's kind of awesome. But yeah, the littlest thing, if I feel my injured shoulder tweaking at me, I have to be like, okay, do I continue with this move? Is this irritating? Do I have to stop? Do I have to modify? So it's that instant kind of, okay, if I don't pay attention to this, I'm going to be really hurt and I'm going to be out. And I don't want that.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly. So I said the other day, my boyfriend and I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I run the other 2 days talking about physical stuff. And I was like, everything just feels so hard right now. And he's like, babe, I think that's your CNS, your central nervous system. You need to take a week off. I'm like, cool. He's like, then you're going to be on the other side PRing all over the place. I'm like, great. So it's true. Listening to those subtle, they're very subtle. Your body doesn't want to scream at you. It's like, hey, pay attention. And then, yeah, when you do,
Even like setting boundaries is another great example. So we hear from our intuition all the time that someone's getting into your space, or you're giving too much, or you're being asked to do things you don't want to do, or all of the above. And if we use our voice and our actions to set those boundaries, then we don't need to do things like get sick, for example. And I'm not saying we cause our illness. What I'm saying is our bodies have a built-in system for taking care of us. I really do believe that. It's a self-healing system. And so if we do not take care of ourselves, if we're not authentic, if we're not doing our path, whatever, then you almost have to get knocked down to force us to rest and take a break. And illness is a socially acceptable way, a socially acceptable excuse to say no. So everybody gets it when you say you don't feel good. But if you just say, I don't want to, then you get resistance or you feel guilty or whatever. So, you know, it's a system
Yeah,
that works sometimes too well.
I know it's true. But then if you're listening, that you inside that intuitive knowing or that sensation in the body that's like, this is the no. And then you lovingly express that. Oh my gosh.
And
It's like preventative medicine.
it is. And it's also, I tell people like they get down on themselves for doing that because this comes up all the time. But I'm like, how about if you use it as an experience, as a practice for saying no, see how it feels. I realize it's because of an illness, right? But just kind of practice, use that as a practice and see that people are not going to die. They will figure out another way to deal with it if you're not there. They'll find ways to take care of things themselves. So, maybe you're not so essential.
Ouch and yay.
Exactly. Exactly.
So wonderful. Okay. So we talked about the fact that people dissociate from the body. We talked about why it's important to stay in the body. How do people reconnect then if they're not in it?
Yes, tons of ways. So I, have some techniques in my book, some different kind of Jungian psychology techniques for writing to your intuition, writing to your body, preferably writing to your body and your symptoms as friends. So they are less threatening. It takes away some of that anger, some of the not feeling empowered, those kind of things. And you can talk to it and basically be like, okay, you're here. What do you want me to know? Why are you here now? Think about what changes have been brought about by those symptoms, because a lot of the time it's positive. People make themselves a priority because they have to. So think about some of those changes and just kind of be like, and you can ask it, how can I help you heal? So you can have a written conversation. And it's kind of a magical way. And if I had not done that, I would not only be not recovered from my eating disorder, I would be dead. I'm absolutely convinced of it. It was essential.
Yeah.
But sometimes too, like words in our head from intuition are terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And symbolism is the universal language because you don't need words. So it's why, myths and legends and all kinds of things have been passed down through generations, because people get the theme of the hero and the mother and father and all the things. It's so you don't need to speak a certain language to get those archetypes, really. So I am a big fan of using art like I do in my paintings, but using movement. So like dance or dance therapy or just dance music, but things that help you to, and this is a funny thing based on what we just said, but things to kind of help you get out of yourself, get out of your anxiety self and get some distance from that so that you're in a state of relaxation. And then that opens up the door for intuition and your body to tell you things and for maybe to feel things like a tightness in your chest or your throat feels a little weird or things that maybe you've been pushing down. And so, but art is a really super fun way, and you don't have to have any artistic ability. And you can kind of even take out some paints or markers or something and ask your body or your specific symptoms to paint or draw something for you.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
And then you don't while you're doing it, don't try to interpret it. You may get stuff while you're doing it because you're relaxed, which is the bomb. But, don't feel like you have to interpret it. Just kind of enjoy the process. It's not about the end product. No one's going to look at it and evaluate it from a museum. It's just, you know, you're just doing it. Right. I know. Seriously. And then after you feel like you're done, then you can kind of take a look and be like, what is that? What is that shape? What does a triangle mean? And you can kind of Google the meanings and do what resonates with you. Or what do I feel when I look at that? Does it remind me of anything? It's kind of like a dream interpretation thing, which is unique for each person, but that's kind of a fun way too. A little scary, but fun.
Indeed. And very Jungian. I love it. No, I love my Carl Jung.
Yes. If it wasn't Carl, I would be dead. So
I know, right? He's such good stuff. It also sounds like, I don't know if you've heard of internal family systems in therapy, but the way that you were describing that, when you're like, oh, it sounds counterintuitive, like you're trying to get out of your anxiety self. But it sounds to me like what you're talking about is just like internal family systems, you're accessing your true self, like your heart-centered self, the calm, confident, secure, capable part of you that can look at these other things objectively and say, hey, friend, I see you.
Exactly.
I see you. Thank you for coming here. What are you here to teach me?
Right. And then if you're talking to it, it doesn't need to get loud and obnoxious. You don't need to get hit in the head by a sledgehammer because, you're giving it a chance to speak.
Yes. Well, shit. Had I known this 20 years ago, Katie.
There's a lot of things I knew 20 years ago. So yeah.
I know. I'd have a few less wounds from sledgehammers. I'll tell you what.
Yes.
Hey everyone, do you love the Reluctant Medium podcast and want to support the podcast while getting some amazing perks in return? Join us at the Patreon community. By becoming a Patreon supporter, you'll get access to exclusive content, behind the scenes insights, early episode releases, and a whole ton more. As a member, you'll also have access to spiritual content like guided meditations, in-depth discussions on mediumship, and exclusive interviews with spiritual experts. It's a great way to show your love and stay even more connected with myself and the show. Sign up today at patreon.com/thereluctantmedium and help The Reluctant Medium keep bringing you the content that you love. I wholeheartedly appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you on Patreon soon. Okay, so there's some great practices, and it sounds like folks can find more and heal from within.
Yes.
Okay. The other question that I had for you today is, I'm needing this for myself. I'm so curious your thoughts on this. I'm curious about the connection between spiritual struggles and physical symptoms. Is that a thing? Well, let's just go with that. What is happening there? And is that?
It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. There's so many directions I can take this. My guides are telling me first to talk about spiritual crises.
Perfect.
And spiritual awakening. And basically what that is in a nutshell is that you start to realize that there's more to life than just what's in front of you. And that there is something greater than you, that you're getting these downloads or information, whatever, from sources that you can't explain. And it's kind of a metaphysical thing in a way, but it's basically like, you know what? There's questions I have that can't be answered by just this physical world we live in. And it can be really weird because you're making changes and maybe living in ways that were not acceptable, or if you were brought up in a certain, religious beliefs or things like that, it can be pretty freaky. So when people do that, it is not uncommon if they're afraid of it or not really tuned in. It's not uncommon for you to have physical and emotional symptoms. And one of my favorite books when I was recovering, it's called In Case of Spiritual Emergency.
Oh,
It
cool.
it's a short book. It's very easy to read, but it gives a zillion examples of these people who were diagnosed with mental illness, like institutionalized mental illness, with all kinds of physical things and all, and what it those symptoms were real, but what precipitated them were times of spiritual awakening, or when they were getting to know themselves, or they were maybe doing some kundalini yoga and were awakening that power thing, or were having crises in their family, or things where they really had to make changes. And that was so amazing to me to read about that. And also, my guides are bringing up that in some cultures, when people have mental health issues, it's actually celebrated, and you're not told that you're crazy. You're not medicated. It's, hey, something's going on with this person. Spirit is coming in to this person's body and psyche, and let's explore it. Let's get to know what's going on, because it could be super important. So it's not like you're sick. Isn't that wonderful?
I love it.
So when I work with people, the reports that I do before I meet them, they're super detailed, and it's all spiritual, emotional, and physical. And my guides always reveal that, yes, here's some physical or emotional symptoms, but you know what else? This relationship that you've been in for a long time has been making you miserable for a really long time. Or there's a lot of trauma, maybe some you haven't talked about. Or there's a job, that you hate, or you're not setting boundaries, or billions of things. And it's also not uncommon to kind of associate the start of those symptoms with a crisis in somebody's life. So it could have been, getting really sick, or a loss, a death, a miscarriage, fertility issues, so many things that then are spiritual experiences, right?
Yep.
That were manifest in other ways. So we do not cause our emotional or physical symptoms. That it's not a blame. What I believe it is that our intuition is talking to us through many, many means all the time, and about being authentic, about setting boundaries, about whatever. And we have a choice. We can choose to listen and take action, or we can choose to just push all that down and pretend it's not happening and be afraid of the pain. So I believe that if we choose to push it down and not listen, that's where those symptoms have to get louder. So it's very intertwined. Like for myself, for example, I will get tired. I'll start to get more achy, less endurance for pole. And I'll realize I have not been talking to spirit as much as I need to be. I've not been taking time for myself. I need to be more creative. There's something missing. And then it's almost, especially if there's anxiety related, almost instantly I'm like, oh, so much calmer, and the symptoms start to go away. And I'm like, okay, so pay attention to this important stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah.
What you're describing is exactly, I just want to say in brief for folks, it's exactly my experience. So I'll just say the part where I ignored what Spirit was saying. So every year I do a reading for myself for the year. And for like 3 years in a row, I got cards around physical wellness. Now, I'm a mental health therapist. I'm like, please, I know, whatever. But mental health means everything.
Right.
Okay, so whatever. And okay, fine, I'll do the things, whatever. But I would never follow through. Well, the final year, I was sick all the time, Katie. I mean, I was so sick and freaking tired of being sick and tired that I finally hired a nutritionist, Dr. Caroline Huarte, is also on this podcast. Go check her out. Changed my stinking life. I had no idea. What Spirit ended up telling me was the work that you're going to be doing spiritually requires you to focus on your body. So I'm like, what? Why? So what you're saying, right?
I'm not
It's
because I can
like,
relate.
no, it's like, why? I don't get it. Well, interestingly, see what you said leaning into the fact that this can be painful, because what ended up happening was I took care of my body, I changed how I ate, I was being gentle with myself at that time because I was in adrenal fatigue, so gentle with my body in terms of physical movement. And for a good year or so, I was really focused on that spiritual awakening stuff even more than before. But what ended up happening was that realized I was not in the right relationship anymore. And it had been painful for a very long time. We were married 19 years, together 22 years, very long time,
Yeah.
lots of traumatic experiences. And finally, my body was like, now you're in me. Now I'm getting healthy. Get the fuck out. Get out. This is what we've been trying to tell you. And there was a relationship change with the body that I was like, instead of saying, why are you behaving this way? It was, oh my God, thank you for trying to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
I
God.
totally relate. And people will know from the show notes, I'm also a licensed counselor. I've been one, for 30
Yeah.
years, So I feel very blessed to do both of those things. And because it's really helpful when people, especially when they bring up like really traumatic stuff. So yeah, no, I totally get that. Some of it for me was needing to cut off contact with certain members of my family that I should have done 20 years ago,
Yeah.
but for various reasons
Yeah.
I didn't, you know? So yeah, and the thing is, like, people get down on themselves, but they don't always know. They don't
Yeah.
make the connection, or they
Mhm.
stay with the person because of the kids, or
Yeah.
my favorite is when I feel better, I will leave the relationship, or I will move, or I will change
Yeah.
jobs. And doesn't you can't heal in a sick environment or in a sick psyche. You just can't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
try to work with people on baby steps. If you are
Mhm.
to get a divorce, because it doesn't happen overnight and no one goes into a marriage like, yay, I'm excited to get a divorce. So start with things like meet with an attorney. You don't have to
Mhm.
tell anybody. It's just a
Mhm.
fact finding informational thing. See what your rights are, see where things are financially, start there, because then you also have a support person in your life,
Yeah.
right? But there's so many little things. Think about, if I don't live here, where might I live? Just start doing kind of what ifs and thinking that way, or in moving, just look at
Mhm.
places where you might be interested
Yeah.
and visit. You know, that's
Yeah.
so empowering to start taking those steps.
Yeah. Dipping your toe into
Mhm.
the idea of a new existence. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was right to the point where I was like, I'm out.
Mhm.
I'm out.
Mhm.
I don't care what it takes. I'm out. And so I definitely love the idea, though, when there's that, to me, the promise of something different for my life overrid any fear. But for folks who are still heavily in that fear, absolutely dipping toes in and just, connecting to people who can support neutrally. Yeah, so important.
Mm.
And the body will tell you. It will tell you when it's right, when it's not right, if this is a yes or a no.
And even things like not getting what you need from the relationship, not feeling cared about, always taking care of other people. Well, when you get sick, especially if you get into a car accident or get into an accident or get Lyme or something like debilitating, you physically and emotionally cannot take care of anybody else anymore. And it puts you in a position where other people have to take care of you. So, for one thing, it's accepting help from others and asking for help, which can be really tough. But it's also like, I can't use my words, or maybe I've used my words and I've been ignored about what I need. So, getting sick is a way of being like, guys, there's nothing left. I can't do it anymore. You have to take care of me. And then it can be a very big eye opener if people then don't step up. You know,
Mhm.
it's a hard lesson to learn, but it is a way to
Yeah.
learn who really cares and who doesn't.
Yeah. So, Katie, am I hearing this correctly? Then most physical symptoms, I may not be hearing this correctly. Most physical symptoms do come from a spiritual place, or is it not necessarily?
I believe that there's a physical, emotional, and spiritual component to all emotional and physical symptoms. Now,
Okay.
not necessarily cause, it could be part of the root causes, but
Okay.
right. But I've never even, okay, so give you an example. My mom got a flu shot 12 years ago, perfectly healthy person, and she became paralyzed over most of her body. And 10 years later, she died. Okay. Now, yeah, it happens a lot. We won't get into that. But anyway, so on the surface, it was the autoimmune reaction she had to the flu shot, which all of the doctors were like, yes, this is what it is. There was no doubt she won her case in vaccine court, blah, blah, blah. Okay. On the surface, it was that. If you know her, though, you would know she was in a horrendous relationship with my father for 45 years, who is an awful person. I didn't know, but she had been carrying shame around since before I was born because she got pregnant with me out of wedlock, couldn't even admit it until she was like on her deathbed practically, a million years later. So carrying around shame, couldn't stand up to my father, tried to get a divorce many times. He manipulated her back into it and becoming paralyzed. And then her asking me to divorce him for her because she couldn't do it. She did participate in the divorce. It wasn't my thing, but
Mhm.
like she could not get away from him on her own. And all of the logistics of, what happened basically separated her from him. And we even talked about it. I'm like, if you had gotten away from him when we begged you to, or even a long time ago, I don't think you would have gotten sick. And she said, I don't either.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. It's this I can see what you're saying. There's perhaps a physical impetus, but the spiritual components matter.
Yeah. And she was also susceptible because she was depressed, and that affects your immune system and other, other things, So, but yeah, that's a really kind of a good example of
Yeah. Yeah.
life.
Really good example. So what can you recommend then for folks who are experiencing physical symptoms? What's the first thing they look at? Should they attend to the body, the emotions, the spirit, all of it? What do they do?
All of it. Yeah.
I know.
Um,
Pick up, heal from within
right. My
now.
book. Yes. Have a meeting with one or both of us. So with me, I do tend to, especially if it's like a pain or something like that, I tune into that and I'm like, okay, did I do something on the pole or whatever to aggravate my shoulder, let's say, you know? So is there a connection to why I'm feeling this way? If I have a stomach ache, did I eat something? Whatever, do I need to lay down? Whatever, to have crackers. So I do try to address that because that takes away or works on that physical noise that can be really distracting, you know? And then sometimes that addresses it, but it doesn't necessarily make it go away permanently. So then I always check in with, especially stomach stuff. What am I feeling right now? When did this start? Is there something going on that I'm nervous about or that's bothering me that maybe I don't want to be aware of because I don't feel powerful enough to change it? Like what is this related to? And my stomach always, always goes off before I realize I'm anxious. Always. Right. My husband knows.
I love that.
Right. He's always like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, there was. Sorry. Um, but yeah, so there's that. And then I also totally check in with, all right, guys, guides, God, whatever, all of you above. Have I been talking? Have I been listening? Have I been taking time in nature? Have I been grounding or have I been distracting myself with crap because I have spiritual stuff that is overwhelming or whatever, So that's how I
Okay.
approach it.
Right. I love how you said first stopping the physical noise, right? Like, yeah, so remove the things that might be causing the issue, and then you can look at everything
Right. Right.
with more clean awareness, I suppose.
If you,
That's really great.
yeah, if you can. I mean, sometimes like the pain just persists, and then that's my signal to be like, okay, you got to go deeper right now.
Okay. Okay. Wow, this is really cool. And folks, if you listen to that first podcast episode, Katie, you'll know that, and you're struggling and not really sure where to go, you can know that you can go to Katie and get some medical intuition. All she needs is your first name and what?
And your age.
Birthday?
Age.
Age.
Yeah.
Age. And yeah, nothing else. And she will provide a painting for you and talk with you about your symptoms and struggles that you might be having and what to do about it.
And a 4-page report that you get.
And
Yeah.
Right.
You get that in the painting before we even talk. And then during our meeting, we get a lot more info from my guides and experience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. Katie, thank you once again for being on The Reluctant Medium.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
My
you.
pleasure.
Thank you for joining the Reluctant Medium podcast today. I hope that this episode has brought you beautiful, high vibration and that it continues emanating from your heart space for the rest of the day and beyond. Don't forget to join The Reluctant Medium on patreon.com, and you can also visit thereluctantmedium.us and the Reluctant Medium TV show on newrealitytv.com. Until next time, my friend, may you be well.